So Godiva got rich on a 2-ingredient recipe, some really good quality chocolate and some cream. Today I'm going to show you guys how to make some assorted truffles from literally 2 ingredients. If you want to get a little bit fancier, obviously you see here that I've got a bunch of spices, I've got some ginger root here, so you could really add anything you want to the base recipe, which is literally 2 ingredients, some good quality chocolate like I have here, and instead of cow cream, obviously we're going to be using plant milk for a thick, creamy chocolate ganache, which is the base of any chocolate truffle recipe. So I'm just finely chopping up my chocolate here so that it's all pretty much the same size, so that it melts evenly when we pour in that boiled plant milk. I am so fortunate to have a friend who's local here, and she owns a bistro, so I'm able to get some really good quality ingredients through her vendors that I know would probably be harder for the home cooks to get a hold of. But Callebaut does make a dairy-free chocolate now, and so she was able to help me get a hold of some of that. They also do make it in the Calais form, which is here, which is a lot easier. You don't have to go through the trouble of chopping it all up like I was just doing, but either way it's the same chocolate. And obviously if you can't get Callebaut, there are some really great vegan chocolates available for us home bakers. My base recipe for the ganache is not quite 1-to-1. I like to go a little bit more on the chocolate for a thicker, more scoopable truffle ganache. So I usually do like about 1¼ cups of chocolate to 1 cup of plant milk. So here's the really cool thing about making truffles is that while it is a 2-ingredient base recipe, the chocolate and then your plant milk, you can infuse into the plant milk literally everything under the sun to make hundreds of different flavored truffles that you can even think of. And so I'm in Christmas mode right now, so I'm actually going to be adding some orange zest to mine and all the spices that scream holiday baking. And so that to me would be cinnamon, anise, cloves and nutmeg. Even going to be adding ginger to mine and a little bit of cardamom. And this base ganache is just going to be out of this world. I don't even know if we're going to get to rolling the truffles, because I'll be honest, sometimes I do make up a batch of ganache, whether it's for dripping on cakes or just to really eat with a spoon out of the refrigerator. My ginger root looks a little bit sketchy because I keep my ginger in the freezer because I don't use tons of it that often. So it's thawed out already, so it might be easier just to, it's working. So I'm going to just grate in the ginger. As you see, I'm not really measuring. I just put the whole orange rind in there, and that was oranges from my neighbor's garden. Well, it's not really a garden, it's a tree, but that's a real deal Florida orange right there, and I tasted part of it before I started, and let me tell you, these oranges are so delicious. Nothing like you get in the store. That's probably been sitting and stored for months and months. This was so fresh, and the reason why I put the orange rind in there, the zest, is because that's where all of the essential oils are in an orange. Ooh, I missed a whole strip. Let me get that again. You could always just take a little vegetable peeler. This is actually a true zest of an orange, where you're just taking off the very top portion of it and you're leaving behind the white pithy part. So this is not actually a proper zester, this is just a vegetable peeler. I was looking for my proper zester, and I couldn't find it. You guys, I have moved so many times and lost so much over the years that it's just unbelievable. So that, in addition to a truffle book that I had, it was like this book just filled with all of the just different ideas of all different flavor combinations to make like hundreds of different truffles. So I can't get this thing off. I'm putting in just a few cloves. Like I said, I'm going for like super Christmas flavor here. I'm going to put in, oh, I hate these things, these stupid things. Every time I buy a jar of spice, I always pull off this part of it and throw it right in the garbage because it drives me up a wall. So if you ever come to my house and try to use some granulated garlic, beware, because that little sifter part is not there. Okay, now I'm going to put in some cardamom. Cardamom is like such an exotic layer of flavor that if you've never tried it in your recipes, you really should. But I'm going to go ahead and steep this up, and then we're just going to pour it over our measured out chocolate, and there's your instant 2-ingredient truffle ganache. So simply by whisking that together, it's going to get nice and smooth and silky. Now for truffles, I always like to let this set at room temperature, not in the refrigerator, because it'll set much more evenly at room temperature. It does take longer. So if you do need to make quicker truffles and scoop these right away, then you can put them in the refrigerator. But trust me, if you just let this sit for several hours at room temperature in a cool spot, it's going to be way better. So this part takes a long time, and yes, I could have bought already shelled pistachios, but not only are those more expensive, I don't like to have shelled nuts laying around the house because I love to snack on nuts. And what I find is that if there's just like a bag or a can of already shelled nuts, I just dig in and eat them until it's gone because I don't have to do any work. So it's kind of like a bag of Doritos, right? Like you just kind of keep reaching in and eating them until the whole entire bag is gone. And so I found myself doing that with nuts. I like to snack on nuts. They're healthy. That's a really good healthy fat and a good snacker, but not when you're eating like a pound of them. So what I found was that if I actually buy the nuts that are still in the shell, I have to do a lot of work to get to a whole pound of nuts, and I'm gonna tire out before I get to that point. So it's like a good way to control my excessive eating habits by getting nuts that are in the shells. If you put a damp towel underneath your cutting board, it has less chance of moving around. It's just safer when you're cutting things. A sharp knife and a stable cutting board. You'll never cut yourself. Now while the truffle ganache is setting up so that we can scoop it, you're going to have to temper some chocolate. If you have real chocolate couverture. Otherwise, if you can get your hands on some non-tempering chocolate, that would really make your life easier. I mean, it doesn't taste as good and decadent as real chocolate couverture, but if you are really not that savvy on how to temper chocolate, this is a really good like easy fix. I do have a full-length video on how to temper chocolate, so if you guys want to check that out, I think it's a pretty good explanation on how to do it. Now, you see I do use this King David brand, which is definitely vegan, and I'm going to be honest, I don't love it in this bar. I used to get the dark chocolate one in this kind of like container, and it would come in these coins, which I really like better, but for some reason when I order that in the dark, they're sending me this. I don't love this. This has a very cheap taste to it, whereas the coins that come in this little container, it really does taste really good. So I'm using it because that's what they sent me, but I do prefer the white chocolate, or I do prefer the chocolate when it is in these coin forms. The quality is just way better. So I'm going to be melting my chocolate. Again, if you have chocolate couverture, you're going to have to be tempering that so that we can dip. But quite honestly, if you don't want to dip your truffles in chocolate, you really don't have to. I'm going to show you a way around that where we're going to be rolling them either in the pistachios or very simply just rolling them into some cocoa powder. Now, I'm not going to lie, I did put this into the refrigerator to speed up the process a little bit. It's been really hot here again in Florida. It's like 80 degrees, so it's sort of not the best conditions to be working with chocolate. Typically, like true chocolatiers have temperature controlled rooms, like they work in air conditioned environments because chocolate is very temperature sensitive. So I'm just scooping my little truffle balls, and then I'm going to be putting these back into the refrigerator so that then I could handle them and roll them into more perfect balls. So I know you guys are already commenting below with all your different flavor combinations, so be sure to keep the list going. I was thinking about some more that I have done in the past, and one that I did, this was before I transitioned my channel to vegan, and I did it for Valentine's Day. I made a tequila lime truffle. And let me tell you, it was freaking awesome, but it didn't really get very good reception. I think, well, I don't think, I know that most of the people, well, I shouldn't say most. Okay, I don't know the percentage, but a lot of people are against using alcohol in their baking. So I feel like it's a lot of people, and that's only because the people who don't use it are the ones who comment. And of course, the people who do like using alcohol in their cooking and baking, you guys don't say anything but yeehaw, let's go. So, see how hot it is in here? I'm having a hard time getting these out of my scooper. But anyway, that's okay because we're going to put these back into the refrigerator. They're going to get nice and firm and easier to roll. But the flavors that I love the most are really alcohol-infused truffles, like a frangelico or an amaretto, or even Kahlua, of course, because if you guys know me, you know I love my coffee. Chocolate and coffee, that's like the ultimate. So you could infuse coffee into the plant milk, then add some Kahlua to it. The possibilities are endless, so I can't really wait to see what you guys have to say in the comments section about what kind of combinations you would make for your truffles. Good thing I'm almost done scooping here because it's getting really hot in here. But let's go ahead and get these into the refrigerator so that they can firm up, and then we can roll them and then dip them, and then we're done. So I forgot to turn on the damn camera when I started rolling the truffles out of the freezer, but you guys get the idea. Once the truffles are firm enough, you could just roll them into nicer shaped balls, put them onto a new sheet pan because then they have to go back into the freezer before we dip them in chocolate. Quite honestly though, you could roll them right into your pistachio nuts or whatever nuts that you have. You don't even have to dip them into chocolate. This is like a way easier way to do it. You could just forego the chocolate altogether and dip the truffle straight into your chopped nuts. They are going to need to be refrigerated, though. That's the only problem with doing a truffle this way versus if you were to coat them in chocolate first, because then they could stay at room temperature. But because the chocolate coating is what's going to kind of keep them from melting. So let me get these back into the refrigerator or the freezer, and then we're going to dip them. All right, so check this out. This is a little trick that I learned by a professional chocolatier. And some people would be like, oh my goodness, what the heck is she doing? Like, that looks so unprofessional. But honestly, this is a technique that professional chocolatiers who do enrobing of chocolates will implement. It's a way to get just the very tiniest thin coating of chocolate on the base of the truffle before you dip it into the final coat. And the reason that we do this is because if I was to just dip this very fragile, soft truffle ganache into this warm chocolate, it would melt this and it would lose its shape. And so this is just a little trick of how to get a very thin coating of chocolate onto the truffle while keeping its shape. It's really, I mean, it's kind of a mess. Obviously, I'm wearing gloves because it is a mess, but also you don't really want to be touching with your bare hands. Our hands do have bacteria on them that if you are not using gloves and you get a little bacteria from your hands, I mean just normal bacteria, into the truffle, and then you coat it with chocolate, and then it sits for like, I don't know, a couple days or a week, and somebody bites into a truffle that started growing mold inside. Like, disgusting. I'm sorry I'm talking about that. It's kind of gross, but that is one of the things that are really important about rolling truffles, because truffles are not really meant to be refrigerated. As you know, if you've ever bought truffles before, they're not refrigerated. They're best eaten at room temperature. They would be shelf stable for months if you do handle them the right way. So, but mine never stick around for more than a week because I eat them all. So as you see, well, I don't know if you can see that, I can feel this. My truffles, because it's so hot in here and this chocolate is warm, it's actually starting to melt my truffles. So I'm gonna have to pop these back into the refrigerator to finish rolling the rest of them. Now I have these little dipping forks that are pretty handy. I like to use these, but if you don't have it, you could just use a regular fork. So I'm kind of like banging off the excess because I don't want a thick, you don't want a thick outer coating of chocolate on your truffles, because you really want to be able to taste the truffle inside. And man, this one's infused with all of those amazing flavors. So why would we want to overpower it with just like a chocolate coating, you know? So you can absolutely stop here at the thin coated version and dip it right into the pistachio from there. It's really your option of how much chocolate you want to use. Typically they're dipped twice. One is that little thin coating, and then the final one is the heavier coating. So here's another option. You can simply just coat your truffle that's only been dipped once in cocoa powder. Ooh, this is such a small little sifter. I'm just gonna pop them right in there. You could just kind of coat them. Could roll them around in cocoa powder instead of the pistachios if you didn't want to do nuts. Really, the possibilities are endless. You can see how you can start to make so many different variations just from this one simple base recipe of 2 ingredients, whatever spices you want. or liqueurs. You can dip them in chocolate or you don't have to. Of course, you could dip them in sprinkles, like really anything. And with this one simple recipe, you just end up having like a really nice assortment of chocolates. What a really great gift idea for the holidays. It's elegant and it's easy and it is so delicious. So thanks guys for watching my video. I hope you really liked it. I hope that you love this format. I do love this new style of filming. It's so much more personal and I really get to kind of chat with you guys. And it's a lot of fun. So as always, thanks for watching and until next time, happy vegan baking. Bye for now.